Breaking news this hour on RT International. Donald Trump's national security advisor Michael Flynn resigns less than a month into the job amid media speculation over his alleged ties to Moscow. Declassified CIA documents reveal a squad of military-trained psychics worked for U.S. Army intelligence. And we asked New Yorkers about the agency dabbling with the occult.
What do you think this drawing is?
A shower.
All right, what about this one?
I guess it's something from outer space.
Let's go with the 7-year-old son's class drawing.
They hired these people who said they were psychics to try and come up with a plan.
And they wasted money on that.
And a Facebook post by a Swedish policeman claiming the most violent crimes are committed by migrants sparks outcry in the country. It is midday in Moscow on this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us on RT International. We do start this hour with breaking news straight from the United States. The White House has confirmed President Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, has resigned from his post after less than 1 month in office. RT's Gayane Chichikan has the latest from Washington.
All of this started with anonymous officials telling the media that Michael Flynn had discussed the Obama administration sanctions against Russia with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. weeks before Trump took office. What exactly the two men said to each other, we the public still don't know. Initially, when asked, Flynn said that the phone calls were not about sanctions. Vice President Mike Pence and other administration officials reiterated Flynn's account. General Flynn then came back to the media to say he wasn't certain. Tonight, he wrote this.
In the course of my duties as the incoming National Security Advisor, I held numerous phone calls with foreign counterparts, ministers and ambassadors. These calls were to facilitate a smooth transition and to begin to build the necessary relationships between the president, his advisors and foreign leaders. Such calls are standard practice in any transition of this magnitude. Unfortunately, because of the fast pace of events, I inadvertently briefed the vice president-elect and others with the incomplete information regarding my phone calls with the Russian ambassador. I have sincerely apologized to the president and the vice president, and they've accepted my apology.
Over the past several weeks, Trump's now former national security advisor has been under tremendous pressure from the press and from Trump's opposition, many of whom were desperately looking to find a connection between the Trump administration and the Russian government.
Tonight, confirmation that President-elect Trump's national security advisor, General Michael Flynn, was in contact with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. U.S. investigators are scrutinizing late December phone calls between Mike Flynn, President Donald Trump's national security advisor, and Russia's ambassador to the U.S.
Trump's national security advisor could be in trouble over a phone call he made before he was on the White House payroll.
Anonymous sources telling the paper that U.S. counterintelligence agents are looking into communications Flynn is said to have had with Russian officials.
There was, figuratively speaking, a target on General Flynn's back way before the phone calls happened. Before Trump was elected, the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency was blasted in the U.S. media for his appearance on our channel, where he discussed the fight against ISIL. He was blasted for accepting an invitation to RT's anniversary gala in Moscow, where the Russian president was also a guest. Add to that Flynn's apparently not seeing Russia as an enemy and his perceived amicable attitude toward Russia, and you could see how he became the target of many speculations here.
Democrats are now asking President Trump to make public the transcripts of Flynn's conversation with the Russian ambassador. And we heard from several experts who believe the Democrats have been determined to sweep aside Flynn no matter what over his bid to improve relations with Moscow.
It was a Democrat Party mantra under Hillary Clinton during the election cycle that in which she was very anti-Russian in tone. The fact that a high official of the Trump administration was even talking to the Russians or even wanting to improve relations with the Russians. The fact that the general had paid a visit to the RT anniversary meeting and publicly had met Mr. Putin, just gave them more fuel for their fire.
They would still keep going after Flynn because our media is obsessed with Russia and obsessed with tying everybody to Russia that they can possibly tie to Russia. Everybody in America who thinks it would be a bad idea for America and Russia to go to war together, the media wants to accuse of somehow being a Russian agent. So anybody who talks to Russia at all, for any reason at all, they're going to accuse of having some kind of ties. So it didn't matter what Flynn said. The media would keep going after him.
Meanwhile, following the media reports of Flynn's alleged connections to Russian officials, the hashtag #FireFlynn has been trending on social media, with people backing his resignation from the post of National Security Advisor. Now, this is just the latest example of Russia being portrayed as the bogeyman by the Western media. RT's Kate Partridge now joining me live here in the studio. Kate, Russia's been in the crosshairs of the mainstream media and the Western governments for quite some time now, hasn't it?
Yes, indeed it has, Rory. And it does seem that the mention of Russia, the traditional bogeyman, is enough to prompt a bit of hysteria. The hashtag, as we heard, #FireFlynn, has leapt up on Twitter with a damning comment coming from US Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi.
Now we have a national security advisor who cannot be trusted not to put Putin before America. As long as Republicans refuse to compel the release of President Trump's tax returns, they are complicit in covering up Russia's financial, personal, and political hold on the administration. Vladimir Putin's group and President Trump must be investigated, exposed, and broken. National security demands that General Flynn be fired immediately.
Putin before America, Russia's financial, personal and political hold, Putin's grip on President Trump, extraordinary criticism and pressure on an administration that's less than 4 weeks old. And it's not just the Democrats who are so fearful of Moscow.
I would consider the principal threats to start with Russia.
Russia today poses a danger.
Russia has reasserted itself aggressively.
But while the US and the media are busy in the recruitment of another national security advisor, other European countries think an olive branch from the West to the Kremlin is the way forward.
I am a huge defender of restoring relations with Russia, deepening a strategic partnership.
Well, after the latest sensation to rock the new Trump regime has calmed down, perhaps open diplomacy can resume between West and East.
All right, RT's Kate Partridge there joining us live in the studio. Thank you. A batch of declassified CIA documents have revealed the agency's dealing with the paranormal is now official. According to the secret files, the Central Intelligence Agency used a team of military-trained telepathic individuals during the Iran embassy siege nearly 40 years ago. The program, named Grill Flame, was established in 1975 and began as research into paranormal abilities. But its star turn came in 1979 when the telepaths were used to provide information on where the hostages were being held in the embassy and the state of their health. And these are the pictures of the scene where the hostages were located, actually drawn up by the psychics based on their remote viewing abilities. And RT's Caleb Mopan asked people in New York about how they interpret the top-secret drawings.
Now, you'd have thought that the CIA would use the most advanced, cutting-edge methods and tactics available. High-tech surveillance, satellites, sleeper cells, double agents, and people who claim that they have psychic powers.
We don't fight with guns, we fight with our minds.
Holy. Pictures showing the psychic's visions, like this one, were also produced. Now, if you take a look at it, it's not exactly clear what's going on here. We decided to ask New Yorkers to use their power of mind to decipher this one. What do you think this drawing is?
A shower.
All right, what about this one?
A room with holes that are holding, yeah, some kind of a ceiling, and this is the structural beams.
I guess it's something from outer space.
That's what you think of?
Yes.
All right, and what about this one here?
A prison.
I'm going to give you A, B, C, and D, and you can guess which one it is, okay? Is it A, the plans for a nuclear reactor? Is it B, the sketches of the floor plan of the White House that Donald Trump's staff gave to him? Is it C, a secret CIA program? Or is it D, my 7-year-old son's homework assignment?
D.
Let's go with the 7-year-old son's class drawing.
I think I'd go with D.
I would say some kind of floor plan for maybe Donald Trump's floor plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Donald Trump's, what the White House drew up for it.
Ready for the answer?
Yeah, what is it?
The CIA started a program, a secret program, option C, where they hired psychics to try and come up with a plan to rescue the hostages. Psychics, people who said they were psychic.
The CIA came up with that.
They hired these people who said they were psychics to try and come up with a plan.
And they wasted money on that. I think they could use their money a lot better way.
Odd. Just plain odd.
Yeah.
No, that's ridiculous.
The CIA project, employing people who claim to have psychic powers, continued until 1995. 26,000 psychic missions were carried out by the CIA. 277 people who claimed to have psychic powers worked with the CIA, all at the expense of the American taxpayer. Up until now, this has been kept top secret, and you don't have to be a mind reader to guess why. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Retired CIA analyst Larry Johnson says the agency has wasted taxpayers' money on what he calls an absurd venture.
I'll call it the bureaucratic imperative. Large bureaucracies like CIA, like State Department, like Department of Defense, when they're faced with a crisis of some sort and they don't have a ready answer to it or a quick and easy fix, will oftentimes be encouraged to literally throw money at a problem and do anything because it's considered a high priority. And by making something a high priority, people are no longer have to worry about being held accountable for what they're doing. And I think that's exactly what took place here. It was absurd. It was a waste of taxpayer dollars. I think this was an example where the CIA, for whatever reason, maybe watching too much television, thought that this would actually produce something. And in the end, it didn't produce anything.
A Facebook post by a Swedish policeman has caused a storm after the officer claimed it was now mostly migrants involved in violent crime. Peter Springer is a veteran police officer who works as a senior investigator in the police department. In his post, he recalled all the crimes he had been handling over a single week, including rape and violence against police. He then pointed out that while Swedes were among the perpetrators, the majority of the crimes on his list were committed by migrants.
We have to spend a lot of time on serious violent crimes, and this is happening all over the country. I've noticed there's an overly large amount of immigrants carrying out these very complex and seriously violent crimes. It is this question I want to bring up and discuss.
The officer's comments sparked uproar across Sweden, with headlines in the media claiming he's now being investigated for hate crimes. However, when we contacted the prosecutor's office for comment, we were told no probe had been launched against the policeman and no decision has been made yet on whether or not to investigate him. Meanwhile, the officer in question has gained some support. A Facebook group, Stand Up for Springer, rapidly gathering popularity. He's also been supported by migrants. One of them even delivered flowers personally to the officer. And while the policeman himself says he's always been positive about immigration, he says the problem actually lies with the Swedish government.
Of course, this is about crimes by both Swedes and immigrants. Sometimes it sounds like all crimes are committed by migrants, but this is absolutely not the case. This is specifically about the overly large amount of criminal immigrants that are performing serious violent crimes, something we didn't see 10 to 15 years ago. This is also a big problem for other immigrants. The immigrant community is trying to start a new life in Sweden and has the right to do so. I've always been positive about immigration. I've never had a problem with it. What I have a problem with, if anything, is the police, the government. And people are asking questions like, can we really take care of everyone?
Yeah, it's good to have you with us today for the programme here on RT International. Much more still to come, including new secrecy laws that could potentially see journalists jailed for simply receiving sensitive documents. Human rights activists getting concerned. Full story, just a moment.
Here's
Here's what people have been saying about Redacted tonight.
Give it to us.
Redacted is full-on awesome.
So good.
The only show I go out of my way to watch every week. It really packs a punch. Lee Camp is the John Oliver of RT America.
They do have the same accent.
Hey, we are apparently better than boobs.
Nothing's better than boobs.
You see, people you've never heard of love Redacted tonight. The president of the World Bank, though, hates it.
Well, he doesn't really have any taste.
Seriously, he sent us an email.
Thanks for joining us here. While Europe and America are still coming to terms with the Brexit and Donald Trump's election triumph, some aren't so surprised by what's happened. James Woodhousen, an international forecasting guru and professor of innovation, has a knack for making some rather precise predictions. He foresaw both the Brexit and the victory of Donald Trump. So we decided to ask him what he thought about some other important issues.
Now, a lot of people are worried that Trump's victory will sort of have a domino effect across the globe, and particularly in the EU. People are saying the presidential election in France is going to be the next big test for the EU. And I know you've said yourself that you think the EU will fall apart within 2 to 5 years' time.
The breakup of the EU, I think, is quite possible, not just because of the elections, but because the EU is a fundamentally unstable apparatus economically. The problem is not that Trump is going to be copied by all these strong men and that all these French electors or Dutch electors, I'm half Dutch, are looking, oh, Trump, he's the way to go. No, I don't think that's the case at all. It's to do with the well-founded feeling of people, not just in the Midwest of the United States, but all over Europe, who believe the EU is not Europe, because it isn't. The EU is not very democratic. They're always telling us to change our opinion. This doesn't mean that they are pro-Trump or pro-Geert Wilders or pro-Le Pen.
Do you think these allegations are fair?
I think it says more about Hillary Clinton's bad politics and her lack of popular support that she blames her defeat on the Russians. Well, people don't have very many political solutions right now. I think this is clear with Mr. Trump. We need a more rational critique of him.
If the politics do change in Europe, do you think those sanctions against Russia will be lifted over Ukraine?
Putin and Trump are apparently getting on a little bit, and they've had a phone call and so on, but the sanctions are still on. Right? That's new. I don't have an explanation in a hurry, you know. I think perhaps the reason is that the West has invested so much in anti-Russian feeling that they will have a cocktail with Putin, get on with Putin, but still keep the sanctions on. And probably Putin won't be very bothered.
Human rights activists in the UK are raising the alarm over proposed revisions to secrecy laws that they say could see journalists jailed for simply receiving sensitive documents. The proposal aims to target unauthorized disclosures of information that could harm UK national security. In addition to dramatically increasing prison sentences for passing on sensitive information, it would also criminalize obtaining it. Moreover, it would prevent whistleblowers using the defense that their leaks, rather, are in that of the public interest. Strangely enough, official economic data would also be protected for the very first time, though some are concerned that the overhaul would see journalists treated like foreign agents. And we spoke with human rights and international criminal lawyer Melinda Taylor, who told us the proposals simply target the wrong people.
It's concerning that there's such a drive to increase the penalties for whistleblowers when the end result would be to create immunity for those within the government that commit crimes. It seems to be completely disproportionate to put whistleblowers in prison when their role is to expose wrongdoing. the focus is now on the wrongdoing, so to speak. This is an attack on the media as an institution, and it seeks to almost co-opt the media into reporting only the news the government wants it to report, rather than the truth.
The official Law Commission report claims that in the digital age, it's now possible to disclose huge amounts of unauthorized information and damage national interest in the process. It also says that stricter measures are important as the risk of such leaks has increased. And Melinda Taylor again says the proposed measures are disproportionate.
Certainly the protection of national security is a legitimate aim, provided it's proportionate and provided it targets legitimate aims in itself. Now, cracking down on genuine disclosures of corruption or government abuses, that doesn't protect national security, it undermines it, because a fully functioning democracy needs these matters to be discussed by the public, so the public can make informed choices concerning the government that represents them.
You might think if you're approaching your 90th birthday, it might be time to take things a bit easier. But 89-year-old Alla Levushkina has no such thoughts. Amazingly, she's still working as a surgeon in Russia and proving quite literally that she's a cut above the rest.
У меня кошки дома. Они на мне спят. Я отдыхаю с ними. Вот в этом и мое долголетие. И кости поэтому меньше болят. Теперь я буду отказывать. Что у меня уже сил нет. Нарушается рабочий день. Не только у меня, и у всех у них. Всем им мешаю. Они тоже от меня плачут. Не плачет, там он сидит? Нет, пока еще.
Thanks for joining us for your news today here on RT International. Up next on this network, to Syria we go, and war through the eyes of the youth.